RetroDaze.
It's the middle of winter. Christmas is far behind, Easter hasn't yet hit, and your birthday, it's still months away. When you're a kid, that means something very specific. Not a present in sight. And for most of us, no presents also meant no video games. Yet when things were dire, there still remained one bastion of hope: the Mailbox.
An intrepid child who'd sowed plenty of mail-away seeds always had that one last lingering possibility that on any given day something mysterious might show up at the front door. Maybe we should take a look and find out what video game secrets are waiting in our childhood mailboxes. Nintendo. This single word still retains the ability to send a shiver of excitement up my spine. These days, the anticipatory shiver is more about the nostalgia and memories old video games carry. But in the 80s, the excitement was born of something wholly new, miraculous, and wonderful. The new technology was at the forefront of home entertainment, and we stood at the feet of this hulking giant, heads tilted back, eyes wide with wonder. I don't know many retro junkies that don't have at least a fleeting interest in video games, and it's easy to see why. The mid to late 80s brought with it a cultural resurgence after the crash of 1983, and by the time the Nintendo Entertainment System was entering the market, kids were primed for a new home form of the arcade experience. As with any innovative technology, though, it came at a high cost many parents were loath to pay. For me, as with many of my friends, new NES games arrived only a few times a year. Birthdays and Christmases were a lock, and there was always a chance, small though it may be, for a mid-year purchase. The in-between times were often the killer. Those long weeks and months when we only had our small library of games, trades with friends, and weekend rentals. It's no wonder I spent so much time scouring magazines and television commercials for any opportunity to score some free video game-related material. As always, I looked to the magic mailbox. That wonderful metal container might house a summertime gift, free of charge and arriving without warning. The following video game mailers mainly come from our writer's stash of old memorabilia from his own childhood, when anything with an NES symbol was a welcome distraction.
Did you see the latest Nintendo newsletter?
Whoa, nice graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
You mean you haven't played it yet? We can play it on my Nintendo Entertainment System. It's The Legend of Zelda, and it's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. Octoroks, Tech-Tikes, Levers too. But with your help, our hero pulls through. Yeah, go Link, yeah, get Zelda.
Awesome.
Intense.
The Nintendo Entertainment System. Your parents help you hook it up. The Legend of Zelda sold separately.
What came along with the video game boom was a healthy appetite for all things Nintendo. The games, after all, weren't exactly easy for most kids, and any bit of advice or guidance we could get was more than welcome. We also craved news. What new games were coming out? Are there any secret codes? Contests? I have to know. Howard Phillips, a spokesperson for Nintendo in the 80s, said, "When we first launched the NES in 1985, we figured out very quickly that kids were just dying to get extra information about the games. Not just new games that were coming out, but also how to play them." Not long into the sale of the NES, Nintendo began distributing the precursor to Nintendo Power magazine, Nintendo Fun Club News, which was a free newsletter sent out to members of the Nintendo Fun Club. To become a member, lucky kids only had to sign up for free using a form found either at a retail store or in Nintendo products. After only 7 issues, the free newsletter was discontinued, and in mid-1988, Nintendo Power magazine took its place. If you weren't lucky enough to sign up for the free newsletter as a kid or subscribe to Nintendo Power, the Internet Archive has you covered. This depository of cultural memories stands stolid and waiting for anyone with a curious enough mind, where you can find the entire run of Nintendo Fun Club News and Nintendo Power magazine, starting from the very first issue, with each page scanned and preserved for your reading pleasure. In an age when every scrap of our past is sold on eBay for a premium, it's nice to know there's still a place where you can go to freely view and enjoy slices of our own history.
So how do you think he does?
Beats me.
Where'd he learn that trick? He always knows what games to get before anybody else.
Subscribe now and get with it.
There he goes. Mr. Nintendo.
Nintendo Power. Call now and get with it.
Whether you subscribe to Nintendo Power or not, it wasn't unheard of to find an advertisement in your mailbox, perhaps after having sent in one of the previously mentioned NES forms. And even though these things were some of the earliest forms of spam, they were still incredibly exciting to receive. This particular one asks kids to embark on a fantastic adventure by, well, subscribing to their magazine, of course. Inside the envelope was a two-sided mini poster advertising 24 pages of outrageous action comics that are part of every issue of Nintendo Power, which at the time included The Legend of Zelda and the Super Mario Adventures. The flip side of the poster contained more outrageous imagery, from a questing Link to a couple of super excited Super Mario brothers. The imagery came paired with loudly proclaimed exclamatory statements like, "Mega hot feature coverage of all three powerhouse systems," and "Nintendo Power is bigger and better than ever." Well, I don't know about you, but I'm sold. Even if you didn't plan to subscribe, getting a full-sized Nintendo Power poster, yes, even one that is a blatant advertisement, was pretty darn exciting when you had no other video game-related presence on the horizon. In November of 1991, 11-year-old writer Tony received a $5 redemption coupon for any Nintendo product. The included letter explained that the coupon was issued as part of the settlement of State of New York v. Nintendo of America Incorporated, an antitrust lawsuit filed by Robert Abrams' office on behalf of New York State Nintendo console purchasers. The attorney generals of all 50 states and the District of Columbia alleged that consumers were overcharged for consoles due to Nintendo's resale pricing policies. Found on NAAG.org, the case description in part reads, "Plaintiff states allege that during the period between March 1, 1987 and December 31, 1990, Nintendo engaged in unlawful price fixing in efforts to maintain resale prices on the Nintendo Entertainment System 8-bit video game console, NES. The plaintiff states allege that Nintendo coerced dealers to comply with its pricing policy by threatening to reduce or eliminate the supply of its products or by imposing different credit terms to non-complying dealers. In response, many dealers complied with Nintendo's pricing policy, thus establishing a conspiracy. Though Nintendo denied the claim, they settled out of court to the tune of $29.75 million, resulting in these coupons being sent out to Nintendo customers who happen to also be New York or Maryland residents. Apparently, young Tony was none too pleased with the accusation that his beloved Nintendo had done something wrong, as partly evidenced by the unused $5 coupon still in his possession. Further evidence comes in the form of this response he received in answer to a letter he wrote voicing his support. Included were their thanks and an explanation that they felt this gave them an opportunity to do something for their customers. They also enclosed a press release about the settlement.
Game over? No way! Cause we got Game Genie! We tell you when it's over.
With Game Genie, I decide how many lives I get.
I use it when I want to live forever.
Play to the end and win. Maybe I want to start on level 15.
No problemo!
It makes cool games like Street Fighter 2 more exciting.
That's frustrating!
With Game Genie, it ain't over.
So we say it's over.
Excellent! Game Genie for NES, Super NES, Sega Genesis, and Game Boy. Codes from many popular games, each sold separately.
The Game Genie was a godsend for young gamers like me who couldn't seem to beat any of Nintendo's games without some kind of cheat code. Imagine a piece of hardware designed for the express purpose of cheating. With a single purchase, suddenly all those old games I'd gotten bored of had a second life, reinvigorated by the possibility of seeing the final screen. We're so enamored with this particular piece of tech that we recently discussed it in even more detail in our video, Nostalgic Childhood Winter Break Memories. Of course, today we're talking about mailers, and as cool as the Game Genie was, even cooler was the notion that new codes were coming out all the time, and we could subscribe to receive packets with those new codes. I'm sure our parents saw the subscription for what it was, a way to suck even more money out of us, but to me, it was another thing to look forward to getting in the mail. Besides, how else, in a time before the internet, was I to find these codes? Perhaps on some forgotten playground of the 90s, a young entrepreneur was making photocopies of his Game Genie mailers to sell for pennies on the dollar, but if that sort of thing was happening, I sure didn't know about it. Finally, we have issue number 2 of The Pit 2 from Acclaim. Now, although Tony only owns this second issue, some research has found that at least one other issue does exist. From the looks of it, Acclaim produced these newsletters to coincide with the releases of Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2, since the first issue has the slightly different title, The Pit Mortal Kombat Underground Newsletter. The promotional mailer masquerades as a secret newspaper, letting readers in on the exclusive news that the popular arcade games would be coming to consoles, including Super NES, Game Boy, Sega CD, Genesis, and Game Gear systems. The anonymous author even states he's putting his job on the line by relaying this very top secret information. In part, he writes, "Read this. I work here. I hang out with the people who are producing the game. I eat lunch with them. We play softball together. Are you getting all this? They tell me things, I tell you. It's that simple, and it shouldn't be too tough for you to figure out that I could lose my job over this." The rest of the first issue contained information about the various console releases, character profiles, a Q&A section, and an interview with the creators of Mortal Kombat. The second issue includes news about the Mortal Kombat movie, the release of Maximum Carnage, and a Mortal Kombat 2 sweepstakes that I can't believe Tony didn't enter. Missed opportunity, my friend. Missed opportunity.
Now, this isn't the first time we've covered the magic mailbox here on RetroDaze, and honestly, it makes me a little sad that the mail doesn't hold the same kind of mystique it did when I was younger. Now, in this case, we're talking about video game mailers, but even junk mail had the potential to spark the imagination back then, like our recent mention of the Publishers Clearinghouse in The Wild World of Daytime Television. And in our episode about mail-away offers of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we discussed the many ways we used to proactively encourage good mail to arrive, like little Christmas present time bombs. Now, maybe it made us feel more adult to get letters and packages in the mail, or maybe we just liked all the mystery of it. Either way, I really do miss that old feeling, because let me tell you, Amazon packages just don't scratch that same itch. Well, how about you? Do you feel the same way about receiving mail as a kid? Did you ever get any video game mail like the ones we discussed today? Well, you know I would love to hear about it down in the comments. And if you enjoy our content, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and maybe even activating that ubiquitous notification bell. It really does make a huge difference. Let's meet again next week to celebrate yesteryear, right here on RetroDaze.
Clicky clicky.